Welcome to the Post Racing Podcast with Ron Robinson and Sean Trivass. Post Racing, the site for winners.
Good afternoon, Sean. Welcome back to Blighty. Have you recovered yet?
My timing's still a little bit out, and I don't like this cold weather very much. I have to say, but yeah, it was an interesting time. There's bits I learnt and bits I didn't learn. I mean, personally, I enjoyed every minute of it. Why wouldn't I? Who wouldn't? But when you watch the racing over there, as we'll discuss later, it's very different, and basically it works. I suppose if put it into simple terms, it works there. Whereas at the moment, you have to question whether it's working here. But more of that later. Let's start off with me being a superstar. Front page headline: Racing.
Hey, the Punters Supremo.
Yeah. Autographs available, only £10 each. Yes, well, that was on the back of. I didn't know I was going to be front page. Let's get that clear. Basically, I got a phone call from the Racing Post saying, in my position as chair of the HBF, would I like to comment on a particular story regarding this guy who's been asked for affordability checks. Luckily for me, I'd read it. Otherwise, I was going to be in trouble. Long story short, for those who haven't read it, he's had an account going back to 2018. Doesn't bet in big stakes. He's not like an owner and major punter. He has no financial issues whatsoever. He doesn't owe any money. He's got regular employment, etc., etc. And his losses were, wait for it, sit down, hold your hat, 4p a day. His losses average out. 4p a day. Now, the quote they didn't put in there, much to my horror and disgust, I have to say, because I was quite proud of myself, was when all these affordability checks started, we used to say, £100 a month, that's not even a cup of coffee a day. That was the phrase everybody used. Well, now you can't even have a glass of water, because at 4p a day losses, and he's been asked to jump through the appropriate hoops and provide this, that and the other before they'll allow him to fund his account. Now, the thing a lot of people didn't notice in this, and again, I'm sorry, Racing Post, I don't think you made enough of this, that's my own opinion, is that he applied for his credit rating via whoever he used. I know Experian is one, I know they're not the only one, there are others. And he got his credit rating up, and it doesn't say what it was, but it was fine. Okay, so we just say it was 900 for want of an argument. I don't even know what the numbers are. It doesn't really matter. He then spoke to his bookmakers, who in this case I believe were Unibet, and they said that they've been given a different rating to that. Now, the question that arises there, are there two credit ratings that you and I have got then? So I can go online and find my credit rating, be that good or bad, but in the one that's sent to the bookmakers is totally different. That's a little bit top secret, black arts, etc., isn't it? In this generation of freedom of information and digital whatever act, etc., that there's a different number that the bookies get sent, and you don't know what it is. That's horrendous. That's more frightening than anything else, in that you think you're solvent, for want of a better way of putting it, only to find that the bookmakers decide you're not when you try and put 50 quid in. He doesn't even bet more than like £1 lucky 15s or something. He's not a huge punter. I've waffled on there. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, loads. Yeah, well, I read the sage words of this Punters Supremo, of this bloke called Trivass. You know him. And I was just basically nodding away with everything that you'd actually said. Have you ordered the T-shirt yet, by the way?
Yeah, Ron suggested a T-shirt. Go on, tell him. You tell him what it says.
Oh, yeah. I sent a message saying you've just got to have a T-shirt with Punters Supremo loud and proud right across the front of it, and the back, if you like. And the thing is, it's not just the people who are wanting to have a bet that are finding all these problems now. It's the people who want to lay on the exchanges as well. There was the owner who, he was turning over £1 million a day.
Yeah, I saw that. Slightly different extremes. Yeah.
But then the bookmakers do, and you would class him as a bookmaker if he's laying on the exchanges and turning that sort of money over. He's probably turning over as much as one of the big bookmakers per day. But now he won't do it anymore. Now, he didn't get stopped. He just said, I'm not going to tell you where my money comes from. I'm not going to tell you how much I earn or what my house is worth. I'm just stopping doing it, full stop. And now what I noticed was that the other day I was faffing about, this buying money system that I've got at the moment.
Yes.
Well, I found a race that I was interested in having a little look at. I was staking at £10 Dutch across 3 horses.
Yep.
Now, one of the horses was priced at 4.7, and I was trying to get £1.38 on it. And it took me 5 minutes to get that bet laid. And it was about 6 different bets
Wow.
6 different people laying that horse at 4.7 to pennies. The liquidity on the exchanges now is disgraceful compared to what it was 2 or 3 years ago. And I just thought I've got to make a note of that for the podcast, because I knew we were talking about affordability checks. But it's not just affecting punters, it's layers as well. It's mad. No wonder we got a £3 billion black hole in the racing finances at the moment.
I think the problem with the exchanges, and I have to be careful in my HBF role, that obviously I support free choice and bookmakers and exchanges and everything adding together. But I have to add to that personally that a poor Betfair and or any other exchanges is not good for punters. It's the one place at the moment where you can, in theory, get a bet on.
That's it.
You can go to your high street bookmaker and find they won't take more than a fiver, or you've been restricted or you've closed down. At least with Betfair or whoever, other exchanges are available, you can go there and in theory, if the liquidity is in there, you could get 10, 20, 50, 100 on if that's what you wanted to do. So a poor exchange or worst case scenario, the folding of an exchange is really not good news for punters. It's another choice, another option, and the ability to get, I won't even say a sizable bet, but literally, I've said this many times before, I've had accounts where I'm restricted to literally pennies. So at least I can get, if I fancy a tenner on this next race, 217 at Southwell, he says, looking up at the TV, I could get a tenner on with the exchanges. No guarantee I could do that with any of the bookmakers. So exchange disappearing is really, really bad news for punters. Whether you do or don't use it yourself at the moment, it just plays into the hands of the other bookmakers who do exactly what they like because there's no competition. Very, very worrying times, I'm afraid, if that's what's happening. Not good.
I don't want anybody to try and convince me that this has got anything to do with betting, gambling. It is 100% to do with money laundering, and it's as simple as that. And I've seen a few people now who are in the business actually using those words as well. And I'm thinking, about time somebody stuck their head above the parapet and did say that. That is what it's all about. And then you've got the situation where this guy we're talking about with his affordability checks at 4p a day, and you're thinking to yourself, who is to blame? You've got the gambling commission saying nothing to do with us. We didn't tell the bookmakers to do anything. And then you've got the bookmakers saying the gambling commission gave us guidelines that we have to work with. And the inference being, if they don't work with what they're calling guidelines, they are fined for not doing so. So in effect, it is the gambling commission causing all the issues, isn't it?
Well, it is, because at the end of the day, the police don't come around to your house and tell you personally that you shouldn't rob your next door neighbour. But you know that when you rob your next door neighbour, you're going to get punished and go to prison for it, in theory.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's what the gambling commission is doing. We're not telling you have to do this, but the minute that we think you've stepped out of line, and we won't even tell you what that line is or where it is, we're going to find tens of millions of pounds. Now, I don't side with the bookmakers in any way, but I do accept that they're there as a business proposition and they're answerable to their shareholders. So they have to do what they need to do to protect their business. So if they think that by stepping outside of this invisible line that they're not really crystal clear on means they might get fined in the millions, then they're going to make sure they err on the side of caution. And that's what they're doing. I'm also, with regard to that black hole, I might have said this last time, I don't know, I'm discreetly aware that affordability checks is a fantastic scapegoat for that black hole. And it probably is, I'm going to take a guess at 80% of it. That is literally a wet finger estimate. But the other 20% is because they're shutting people's accounts. They're restricting their size of bets to pennies, etc., etc. And that's, the bookies are sort of almost getting away with that because it doesn't get much of a mention because it all gets encompassed under affordability checks. Meanwhile, and I always look at it as a long list. There's a guy at the top of that list, or girl at the top of that list, who's winning loads of money from the bookmakers, and down the bottom there's people losing loads of money from the bookmakers. Well, if this act and affordability checks, etc., cuts that percentage at the bottom that are basically handing money to the bookmakers, then they have to cut people from the top half as well. Otherwise, they don't balance the books. So they're looking at anyone who knows what they're doing, looks like they know what they're doing, takes best price, anything like that, and going, no, I'm shutting you down because we've lost a load of punters that were handing us it on a daily basis. We've got to stop those who are taking some of it back out again. And that's getting missed in the noise a little bit. I'm fighting that corner, and that continues. I've got meetings with various people coming up in the next few months, hopefully, or they're supposed to be, and we'll put that case forward. I can't comment now. There is the potential for good news in the future. People are acting towards the right thing. Whether the powers that be will listen is a totally different question, and only time will tell on that.
Yeah.
Moving on to something positive and negative at the same time. What did I put down next?
The French are coming.
Mange too, Rodney. They are, aren't they? What did you think of the French?
JetBlue, contender for Cheltenham in March? Question mark. Well, you can still get 16-1 for the Albert Bartlett, and that might well be a good each way bet, you know, because that will be his target. Whereas some of maybe one or two of those in front of him on the tissue right now, they will be going for something else. Yeah, I quite like the yellow clay for that race, to be honest with you. But JetBlue did win very easy. They were concerned about the trip, but he seemed to get it okay. Now, whether that race was a little bit more slowly run than an Albert Bartlett will ever be run, and whether or not he sees out the trip at a proper racing pace remains to be seen. But at least they did prove he does stay the trip. He does like the track. Yep. So he's definitely coming back in March. I can see he'll definitely be a player in the Albert Bartlett. No doubt about that. The thing that I was scratching my head over it. Caroline Tisdale owns him, or Tisdale, and she used to be a really big supporter of the Pipe Yard. I don't know how many horses she's still got with them now, but you're just thinking to yourself, 5-10 years ago, that would have been trained by Martin Pipe, David Pipe, you know, and now like millions of other owners, well, hundreds of other owners, they're going to race their horses in France and other European countries because the prize money is better. They'll only come here now for the big meetings like Cheltenham. I'm looking forward to seeing the horse again. He looks pretty decent.
I don't actually disagree with you. I'm more looking at the positive. It's good to see the French are sort of starting to bring some challenges together to come over and make it a little bit more international. Perhaps give the Irish a bit of a bloody nose now and again. Well, you never know. I'm not anti the Irish, but we all know the argument that goes on. Cross country chase. I know that's one of your favourite races. Well, in November, Sweet David came over from France and won that. So I'm just chucking this for my son's benefit. He was out in Italy running a charity marathon last weekend, and he ran into Felix de Giles and was chatting with him, and he was right. He was the one who rode Sweet David to victory at Cheltenham. So it really is a very small world, isn't it?
It is and all.
But I just think it's a positive that the French are going to come over. It does show that it does show that Cheltenham's the sole target for everything, and I think that's become a negative for National Hunt racing over the years, in that all roads lead to Cheltenham, but you don't have to race anywhere else really. That's the only thing anyone's interested in. And let's face it, those two only came over for a trial to see if they handle the track. So, but it's good news. It's good news to see some challenges and something exciting to look forward to, because March isn't that far away now. We're almost January.
I'm telling you, it comes around so quick. People say, "What are you working on Cheltenham Festival for now?" Yeah. It's because basically it starts in November. It's as simple as that. All the trials starting in November, and if you're not watching them and you're not on top of it, you'll get stuffed come March.
Yeah, it's just too much work. I had someone come back to me and say, "Oh, I like your profiling work you did in your book for Cheltenham. Have you thought of doing one for every meeting, every main meeting or every main race?" I thought, well, it's actually physically impossible, because by the time I spent the time doing the racing for 6 weeks' time, something will have happened that changes all the ones I've done before, if you see what I mean. That those races are so continuous that it's just impossible to keep on top of it. The ideas sound doing it on a weekly basis, but to try and do a sort of an annual book that covers it all would just be an absolute nightmare. I mean, with Cheltenham just changed all the races. So,
I know the 6 races that I've really got to get to work on to try and find out how I try and find out what's going to win these races. Because, for instance, the cross-country race is now a handicap. Not that bothers me too much anyway, but they've changed the rules regarding the National Hunt Chase. Professionals can now ride in that. I think, and I'm thinking to myself, well, any stats that I've compiled over the last 20 years for these 6 races, I now bin them. They mean absolutely nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
And so somebody emailed me the other day and said, "Have you come up with the one yet for Cheltenham?" And I'm thinking, I don't even know what's going to be happening with these 6 races. Now, I've just mentioned the National Hunt Chase, now open to professional riders. That was one of my go-to races, because it was plainly obvious come March the previous year who was going to be going where, who was going to be riding what. And I got Galvin and Statler, and everybody was happy about the garden furniture because of that race. But now it's basically a total rewrite, and that's what we're up against. Yeah,
makes it difficult for us, but never mind. We like a challenge. Come on, let's be realistic.
Oh no, nothing like a racing challenge, is it? It's great. Better than a Rubik's Cube.
And it just. Moving on, I think the next thing I put down was a bit about me in Japan and Hong Kong. It wasn't about me, it was about the differences over there. And why can't we pick some of them up? Now, I wrote a very brief bit here to cover it. I don't want to bore anyone to tears. I'm not showing off about where I've been. It's just the way racing is treated. And it's very different between the two countries. So don't think they're the same, because they're not. Now, in Japan, jockeys, trainers, and even the horses, they're superstars. People want autographs. I was out on a blistering cold morning, and I mean it was cold, because the owner of Goliath, the American guy who owned Goliath, had put out on Twitter or X or whatever it's called these days, that he's going to hand out a few baseball caps. So he turned up in the street with, 50 baseball caps, want of an argument, and there's thousands of people there, all turned up in a shopping centre just for that purpose, waiting to see him and try and get a baseball cap. To the extent that the police told him he couldn't do it and moved him on and called out extra police because it was blocking the sidewalks. And he had to go back to the hotel, and he was just handing out caps and some kind of sort of top trumps type card with Goliath on to literally thousands and thousands of Japanese racing fans. Now, they had 80,000 at the Japan Cup, and I was told that they had to ballot for the tickets, and it was a 1 in 23 chance to get one. Now, I can't be bothered to do the math. You times 23 by 80,000 and tell me that we've got a single race course or race meeting ever that would be in that position. Yeah, never.
True.
Yeah, you're talking 2 million plus, aren't you, really? 10,000 stayed behind for a retirement ceremony for Auguste Rodin. Now, Auguste Rodin isn't even a Japanese horse. He's only had the one run in Japan when he was beaten, but 10,000 stayed behind to watch him have a retirement ceremony. They love their racing. I'm not saying they don't have a bet. Of course they do, same as we do here. But it's not all about the betting in Japan. That's the point I'm trying to make. They love the horses. They love the sport. They love the jockeys. Moving on to Hong Kong, I have to say it's more about the betting, but then punters are treated like royalty, not quite how we feel over here. The betting halls are luxurious and comfortable. There's plush seating, there's dozens of TV screens. They give you more data than you can shake the proverbial stick at in an attempt to help you to find the winner. Because it's a total monopoly, they don't care who finds the winner. It makes no difference. The more money's in the pot, they simply take their percentage out of that pot before paying back out again. So they don't care if they can find the winner of this next race for want of an argument, and it's 6-4 favourite, and everybody backs it. They don't care, because it simply means it'll go off at 1.2 instead of 6-4, and they still take a percentage out of a multi-million-pound pot. So they really don't care. But because of that, they look after the race goer, they look after the punter, and in return, they then give millions of pounds to charity every year. Now, that may sound like a throwaway statement. It's not. It's because betting, therefore, isn't seen as a negative thing as it is here, especially at the moment, with Gambling Act reviews and affordability checks and everything else. It's not seen as a negative. You can go and have a bet. You can win some, you lose some. But hey, if you lose, some of it goes to building a new school or a new hospital. So you don't feel quite so bad about it. Surely we can tap in, not me, the powers that be, can tap in to some of that goodwill, good feeling, and find a way to bring it over here, because it's frustrating to see how successful it is there and then come back over here and go, oh, here we go again. What's the latest news? Because it's very rarely positive, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's depressing.
What's it like over there, regarding advertising racing? Say, peak viewing time on a Tuesday afternoon or a Tuesday evening. Would there be an advertisement for the next race meeting coming up, and bring your family along to Happy Valley and blah, 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 blah? Yes,
there'd be all of that. I thought you were going to ask about advertising and gambling advertising with you. They don't need any gambling advertising. I suppose they don't.
No.
That issue, because there is only the tote to bet with, so there's no need for gambling. Yes, they do. They tell you when the next meeting is. I mean, can you imagine the trainers here when they've plotted something up off the Newmarket Gallops and they back it from 10-1 to 2-1? It's one of your OMs, and they all collect money and they go, yay, fantastic. Well, in Hong Kong, every single gallop is on the racetrack because there are no stables, and every single gallop is televised live. And there's something like 20 or 30 different newspapers, solely horse racing newspapers. Take the Racing Post and call it whatever you want, the Hong Kong Racing Post, the South China Morning Post, and there's 20 or 30 pure racing magazines and newspapers. And that doesn't include websites. Obviously, we've got hundreds of websites of our own, some good, some bad. And obviously all the major papers also carry racing because it's so popular. So it's sort of it's a circle that's getting bigger and bigger that they help themselves. You know, the papers want to carry racing because it's popular. Racing becomes more popular because it carries racing, because it's carried in.
Well, I've actually written that. I was going to say a little bit about this. If you promote something, anything, in a positive fashion, you convince the public to become positive about it.
Yes.
But if you keep telling the public something is dirty, then it's dirty, and nobody wants anything to do with it. Nobody dares say a word about it. Even the people that are involved in the sport and love the sport, like we do.
Yeah.
You're half inclined to say nothing. If you're talking to somebody that's got nothing to do with racing or hasn't particularly got an interest, you don't say a word to them about racing. Whereas over there, they probably say, "Oh, you've got to come and see this horse on Saturday. Absolutely brilliant. You've never seen anything like it." If you said that over it, whoa, you know, garlic and crosses come out. It's mad. Yeah. It does my head in. It really does.
People change the subject fairly quickly. What do you do for a living, Sean? Oh, I write about horse racing. Oh, right. And what do you do?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
What do you do for a living, Dave? Anything to change the subject? Yes. Yeah. I mean, I have mentioned to some people at Racing Post the idea of a glass half full column to try and look for some good news stories. I do think, I always think I'm right because that's what blokes are like, isn't it? But I do think that there are negative stories and they do need to be publicised, but not. Yeah, it's becoming so negative.
The biggest negative is that they highlight racing as being all about gambling. And what they're doing at the moment is making gambling seem to be like we're all doing deals with devils. And it's just impossible to imagine in this country, Haydock Park saying at 6 o'clock on Prime TV, just before the 6 o'clock news after countdown, come to Haydock Park on Saturday. We've got 6 fantastic races on. Frankel's coming. He's going to be parading for doing nothing. You'll be able to see him and take your photograph with him. Anything like that. Ignore the gambling element. Just get people interested in coming racing. Absolutely brilliant it would be. And that seems to be the difference between this country and the likes of Hong Kong and Japan, where, like you said earlier on, the horses and the people involved, they're all superstars.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a shame. I've got the racing on in the background, as you probably have, and racing's become so intrinsically tied in with betting and nothing else. And you don't watch a football match and on the screen it comes up on the side all the time. It's now 6-4 Liverpool to score. It's just drifted to 7-4 5 minutes before kickoff or whatever it is. And you don't get that. You might get the adverts in the middle that say next goal scorer so and so special offer 10-1, but not from the actual broadcaster themselves, only from advertising in it. Whereas here I'm watching it and it's all about what the price is. Now, okay, I suppose that is relevant, but it's been a little bit over-egged in my view, to the extent that it's very difficult to turn back the clock and get back to thinking, well, actually, there's some nice racehorses here, and there's some characters in the saddles, and some characters who own them, and some characters who train them. That's almost by the by. All that matters is that's the 3-1 favourite, and the one I backed was 7-1. I do hope he finishes in the first 3, and the rest of it's almost irrelevant. Yeah, it's sad. I don't think we will get past that in our lifetime, unfortunately, because that's how it is. But I think we need to move. Not away from the betting, but acknowledge it's not the only factor that matters. We can't do that when we put headlines about there's a £3 billion black hole in the betting.
Well, you see that again ties in with the whole thing. We're financed by gambling, and I know even if we had a total monopoly, we would be. Yeah. But there'd be more money to go around all the racetracks that would survive, because they wouldn't all survive. You'd have less racing, it'd be better racing, the prize money would be better, which is something I'm going to be coming on to when we discuss topic number 5. It'd just be so much more positive. That's what the 500 Club's all about, by the way. Ignore the gambling element. It's about getting... Do you remember our stable visits and our trips to the race courses?
Yes.
I thought absolutely fantastic. We had over 100 people turn up at David O'Mara's yard. The guy ran out of muffins and coffee. Absolutely brilliant. And there was nobody had a bet that day. They'd come to see the horses. It was great.
Make that the priority with the profiling and your OMS and not secondary, because that's where it came from. So I don't mean to sound derogatory there, but it's part of the package. It's not the package. Oh, and by the way, we've got stable visits, we've got trips to the races, we're going to try and get all training in our colours, etc. Oh, and by the way, to try and help you fund that, we're going to do this in the background to try and find you some.
Yeah. If you want to.
Yeah, I'd love to go that way. I think racing should be that way around, but then I'm blissfully naive, as I keep being told. Moving on, we've got some positive stuff. I found some positive. Look at me. Willie Mullins.
Yeah, manager of the year, not just trainer of the year, manager of the year in Ireland. And that just doesn't talk about horse racing. That's football, rugby, hurling, anything you like, any sport you like. And he's come out top dog. Absolutely brilliant, I thought that was. I guess winning the champion trainer title in this country didn't, well, that would have helped. But it also says that racing is right up there with football and rugby, etc. Yes. And if the powers that be over there don't see that, then it's playing this downer they've got on racing at the moment has nothing to do with the sport.
Yeah.
It's again the betting gambling side of it. This seems to be the great taboo. But I would concentrate. Put Willie Mullins' name up in lights. Get Willie Mullins to open his yard up and come and have your photograph taken with Willie and see the horses that got him to where he is today. That again, absolutely brilliant. Make it more about the people and the horses. Stuff the betting side of it. Okay, we all enjoy a little bit of a bet if you can get you £1.38 on at 4.7. Let's make it more about the people. Brilliant, that is.
I think it might have been a bit of a boost to the Irish racing industry that's also under attack. With regard to advertising, particularly is a massive problem for them. I believe it's Sky Sports over here, but don't quote me on that one. That they can't advertise. And they can't cover the meetings. It's as simple as that. That's where their bread and butter comes from. They can't do it as a loss leader, and they won't. Nope. Now, maybe the Irish government will sit and listen and go, oh, hang on a minute, racing's a lot more popular than we thought it was. And maybe our own government will look at it and go, well, hang on a minute, racing's quite a popular sport after all. That might have been over the seas, but it's not a million miles away. So maybe we're the same, and they might give us a little bit more help, I suppose, is what but never mind. Well done, Willie, for that one. And then lastly, this is the bit you obviously want to add something in that I don't know about. He cons me with this. Tony Carroll finally breaks the milestone of 100 winners on the flat in a calendar year. Over to you.
Yeah, well, I know he was sweating on it, and I believe that reading his article in the Racing Post, he became a little bit tetchy when they had about six winners they needed to get the 100. And he must have been walking around the yard like a bear with a sore head. Anyway, they did it, and that is absolutely fantastic. I had a look at his record over the last few years, and he's always there or thereabouts. The year before, he had 78 winners and a very similar number of horses that actually placed as well. I looked at the prize money he won with his 100 winners and his placed horses this year. And it's 757,885 quid. Last year, he had 78 winners, very similar number placed, and he won £708,794. So those additional 22 winners were only worth £49,091 or £2,231.41 each. So then I thought, right, well, how did Gosden get on? He had 109 winners last year. That's only 9 more than Tony Carroll. Nothing like as many placed horses. He won £3.8 million.
Yes, competing at a different level.
It's a brilliant achievement by Tony Carroll, especially because he's dining at he's dining on the scraps. But it definitely highlights the prize money, the difference in prize money at the top to that being dished out at the bottom. Something needs to be done about that.
People have tried things and they're still trying various things. Whether anything will come to fruition, I don't know. I've chatted to people who don't know anything about racing. Trying to find a solution to any question you've got in racing that suits all parties. I can't think of one that would ever work. You've got the owners and the trainers on one side, the jockeys involved in that as well. Then you've got the race courses, and then you've got the BHA. Basically, trying to find something that suits everybody. If you give more prize money at the bottom, unless you can find more money from the magic money tree, then it has to come from the top. And all those at the top, which have the loudest voices, quite frankly, I'm not suggesting these people are anti it because it's an unfair thing to say, but your Coolmores and your Godolphins and your Gosdens and your etc. are the ones who are dining at the top table. They're not going to voluntarily suggest what a good idea it is. Yeah, just take a couple of million quid out of the prize money of the races that we compete for and give it to the lower races. They're going to be anti it, and on behalf of their owners, they have to be. It's sensible for them. But so you're getting agreement to do anything like that is going to be the difficult thing. You really need, I don't even know where I read this, but someone was talking about a set of top class races and trying to get a single sponsor in, like Barclays does the Premier League. And that's quoting from what they said. That's what I picked on Barclays. So, and have this entire like 30, 40, even 60 race setup, all the classics and all the Group 1s, for want of an argument. I'm making that up. That wasn't in the story. And say, would you like to come up with 30 million? Again, I'm deliberately changing the numbers in case I'm nicking this from someone. I'll get clues of plagiarism. But come up with a large package to do that. If they did that as a massive sponsor and took all those out of the equation, then all that sponsorship money, in theory, could start to filter down. All the money they don't need to make the Derby worth £1 million could filter down to lesser races. Now, whether you're going to find anyone who wants to open their wallet quite that far, open to question. But considering
it'll only happen when the sport is seen in a more positive light. If like football seen in a very positive light, so you'll find all the big companies prepared to throw millions and billions at it. And as I say, until they start doing that with racing, we'll just be living on the scraps. I mean, I had another thought then when I was listening to what you were saying. Would it be harder for Tony Carroll to train 100 winners than John Gosden? It would, wouldn't it?
Theoretically, with regard to maidens and stuff like that, where the Gosdens would have a multi-millionaire well-bred horse, whereas Tony's potentially got something a lot cheaper to buy.
But he's probably got to the sales and bought something Gosden couldn't win with. Yeah,
that's so yes, gets loads of credit for that. On the other hand, you won't see Gosden representing in a Class 6 handicap at Wolverhampton. So therefore you might, but it's unlikely that therefore Tony Carroll's got more chance of winning a race with his horses because he's competing at a different level. It's like, is my pool team going to win the league this year? Well, it might do quite well because we're in Division 1, but we wouldn't be winning it if we were in the Premier League. So it's a different thing. Is Liverpool, I don't know, Everton might have won if we'd been relegated last year. We might have been top of the Championship to come back up again. As it is with 16, it's because we're in the Premier League. So it's what you're competing against. So it's really tough to answer that one. I think it needs to filter down. The trouble you're going to get, and I'm literally looking at a TV from Utoxeter as we say that, I think, well, the sponsors who were originally willing to sponsor the Derby aren't going to be willing to dissipate that money to the 240 at Utoxeter when there's a crowd of 500 people and a few thousand people watching on Sky Sports Racing. That's not the same as a bang for their buck as sponsoring the Epsom Derby where there's millions watching. It's on ITV, not even ITV3, but on straightforward ITV, and everybody's interested in the results. So that money you can't simply say, oh yes, we'll get all that millions that we've got from the top races now and we'll filter that down, because the companies won't be interested in sponsoring at that lesser level when no one's watching it. They need a return for their investment, and that's what we need to be looking at. How do we get them a return for their investment? I know that's business talk, and I'm rubbish at business. So I'm probably hopelessly wrong. But you understand my theory at the very least. You've got to make it attractive so people think outside the box for new sponsors, local businesses. I don't know, whatever. But are they thinking outside the box, or are they going to the same old that they go to every time and settling for what they can get? Let's get some competition for sponsorships. You and I know from occasions we've had where we've been contacted by a race course and said, could you possibly fancy sponsoring a race, and it's a few $100. And the only reason is they couldn't get a sponsor. So they need to find a way to make it more competitive, so sponsors are fighting each other to get their name headed onto a race. And as you and I both said before, unfortunately that may largely be there's so much racing. How do you make it? You can't make sponsors compete when they've got a choice of X thousand.
That is it. We need a race course call. We need a racing calendar call, because otherwise it's just going to implode.
Yeah, it's not good at the moment. There are things in the background that are promising. That's all I can say for now. But there are things in the background that are promising. That makes me sound like Secret Squirrel. I don't mean it that way at all. But there's can't discuss till they're out in the open. But there's things.
No.
Whether they will or won't come to fruition, anybody's guess. And one day I'll tell everyone about it. But for now, I have to keep quiet. Right, moving on. I believe, did we not have a question from one of our listeners?
We did, yeah, Andy. Oh. We didn't. We thought we'd leave the best till last, mate. Crack another tin while we discuss this. Now, Andy got in touch through the week, and he was having a look at Lossiemouth. He wanted to know where it was running, that type of thing. And when he did his search, he found there's two Lossiemouths. One was running in Ireland. One was running in England. I think it's going to run on the all weather or something.
All right.
And he was wondering how it's being permissible for two horses, one in Ireland, one in England, to have the same name, because he was of the opinion that you can't do that. You can't name a horse Lossiemouth in Ireland and Lossiemouth in England. And he's absolutely 100% spot on. But what happened was the Lossiemouth that is trained in Ireland was born and bred in France, named in France, and so that law, that rule, doesn't apply. I have seen other instances of this. I can't bring one to mind at the moment, and I know you've been in touch with Weatherby's and the BHA to find out more information. They're yet to get back to you, but we'll carry on this discussion when they do get back to you. But that is my understanding of the situation. Because it's French bred, you can call it what you like.
Yeah, I don't think it's particularly just because it's French. I think it's because it's got a different suffix. So you could actually have Lossiemouth GB as well as Lossiemouth Ireland and Lossiemouth France. It's where they're bred gets you the suffix FR for France, IRE for Ireland, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So you could in fact have a third one because the suffixes distinguish between them. What I did also find out, difficult as it was to find these things out, was that there are a list of 3,000-ish horses whose names are, I'm going to use the word sacrosanct because I just like the sound of the word.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't, with no offence to Ron and I, it wouldn't be right if we bought a horse at the sales that has never raced before and been named for 2,000 guineas for want of an argument, and ran it in a Class 6 cellar at Wolverhampton, and it was called Frankel. That just wouldn't be fair, would it?
And can you imagine the anger on track?
It wouldn't be right, would it? It's as simple. No. All I found out so far is the 3,000 names horses. Ron mentioned Arkle as well as another example. Going back in the glory days, certain horses, and I don't know what the clarification is. The rules are. You'd imagine it's certainly classic winners. I would imagine. And potentially all Group 1 winners. I'm making that up. I'm waiting for a reply, and we'll update if I ever get a reply. I mean, it's Christmas to them, to be fair to them. So there are names that you simply cannot copy. You're not allowed rude names either, sadly, and you're not allowed to use the name of any living person or anyone who died within the last 50 years. Don't ask me why. I suppose you wouldn't want to call. If you had a horse with only 3 legs that ran backwards, you might want to call it Keir Starmer, for want of an example. That was supposed to get a chuckle, that one. But okay, yeah. Do you know what I mean? You can't call it after someone who's still alive because it could be seen.
No, you need their permission, don't you?
Yeah. No, you just simply can't do it. You can't call it after a living person at all. Or anyone who died within the last 50 years is what I managed to read anyway. But if I get any more information, we'll update on a give us a site.
I've just had a brain thingy wingy.
Sit down.
Wasn't there a horse bred in Poland called Galileo that was running at the same time as Galileo, the one trained by Aidan O'Brien? I'm pretty sure there was, I'm trying to think who trained it. I think it might have been a hurdler, or a steeplechaser.
Okay. I can't see it, but it wouldn't cover Poland, I suppose. So you could be right. I won't be able to find that.
Well, no, it ran in this country, and it was trained by an English trainer. I remember it. Galileo. Who trained it? That'll come to me. That. Yeah.
I'll find out. Yeah, but you can get duplicate names as long as the suffix is different. And other than that, there are rules that you can't use rude words. And it's long been a competition amongst owners to try and sneak slightly dodgy names through. They possibly can. I believe Who Gives a Donald got through. And part, I think Hoof-Hearted got through as well.
Yeah, it did, yeah.
2 separate words before I get told off.
There's been quite a few.
Yeah, I think the thing is, it's become a bit of a game. And the concept is, rightly or wrongly, that the sort of people who decide on these things are from the higher echelons of society, shall we say. So things with sort of Cockney rhyming slang or dodgy slang aren't really noticed, and you've got a chance of sneaking them through. There's been a few spoonerisms got through in the past. I'm not even going to repeat any of those. I can't think of one I wouldn't get told off for, and this is a family podcast. But it is
I've got one running around inside my head now, and I dare not say it.
Nor do I. Did it start with the word Mary?
No, it doesn't.
Oh, right. Well, I've got one that was Mary, but we'll people have to contact me contact me directly for that one. Right, and on that note, too much jocularity going on. We better move on to trying to find some winners, haven't we? Really?
It is Christmas. We can do what we like, can't we? Anyway, okay, let's find some winners.
Yeah.
Where are we going to start? 150 Ascot, or do you want to go with the 12:55 Haydock?
Let's go 12:55 Haydock. And Ron's confused.
Running order.
I had to change the time because they changed the running order, but still, yes.
Yeah, that's no problem. We've only had 4 previous runnings of this race, so working in my usual way, it's impossible. I need a minimum of 10. So 4-year-olds, they've won the last 2 runnings of this, and the pair at the head of the market are both of that age, plus the winners of 2 of the 4 renewals so far of this race have sat front 2 on a tissue. So if that is maintained, and it's up in the air whether it is or not, the winner's got to be one of Holloway Queen or Kayla Wood. Now, we've only had 1 winning favourite so far in the 4. And so, purely for podcast purposes, I'm going to bin the favourite Holloway Queen, and I'm going to take Kayla Wood, but with absolutely no confidence whatsoever. Over to you.
Okay, well, I picked the races, so I have to suffer for this. But remember, I picked an advance when we don't know how many runners. Excuse me.
No.
Don't know how many runners we're going to get, etc., etc. We're down to 5, which is a bit disappointing. Most of these are very likely raced with From Here to Eternity, the exception. She's had 12 starts. Nicky Henderson's Lingfield winner, Holloway Queen, is going to go off short price, odds on at the moment as I speak, 10 to 11. But she only won by half a length at Lingfield, so I wasn't overly impressed. It doesn't mean she isn't better than that, but she didn't look like a world beater to be an odds on shot to me. I'm with Kelly Wood as well. Following the great boy Josh Guerrero fell at the last when looking the likely winner in her only point to point at Lisbon in Ireland in February. Debuted over hurdles at Utoxa, made all. I quite like a horse that makes all when we're looking at a small field. She might be able to split the field for a very comfortable 10-minute success. She was sent off a 16 to 1 chance that day. Now that suggests that she's going to come on for the run. Either she'd been showing very little at home, or they thought she'd improved for the race, shall we say. The second's run well since and been beaten, but run well in second. The third that day was already a bumper winner. So the form looks a little bit better than the majority of maidens. I can't really see why she's 3 to 1 compared to the odds on Holloway Queen. I should look stupid after the race as Holloway Queen wins by a street. But at the prices, I think Kelly Wood's the better value of the 2. And that'll do for me, and nothing much more I can add, I'm afraid.
Yeah, there's not a lot to say about a little race like that, really, is there?
No, sadly not. Sorry, I try to leave you the handicaps, etc., because you want them for your.
There is that. Yeah.
I'll chuck in 1 or 2 to annoy him. Next, we've got an even smaller field, haven't we? The 150 at Ascot. It gets worse.
And there's only 4 runners again. 150 at Ascot, and it's got a really weird feel to it, hasn't it? I mean, 3 of the 4 runners have travelled over from Ireland, and the joint lowest rated horse is currently the favourite. And that horse is the only home-trained horse in the field.
Yep.
The winner's usually front 2 on a tissue, 8 of the last 10 were. So the winner is either Iroko, trained by the same guys that trained the one we've just tipped up at the other meeting, or the Mullins trained James Dubele. Now, the second named horse is an 8-year-old. And of the 8 of that age that have had a crack at this, only 1 has even managed to place. Iroko is a 6-year-old, and they've won 4 of the last 10 runnings and 3 of the last 5. I've got to go with Iroko, an impressive winner of the Martin Pipe at the 2023 Cheltenham Festival. He's proven to be a little bit brittle since then. He's only had the 4 runs between March 2023 and tomorrow. But he's a good horse when he's right. I'm just concerned he might not like the thought of going through the pain barrier. and he isn't letting himself run because he's come second the last twice. Oh, to be able to get inside a horse's head, eh? I'll go with Iroko.
Yeah, I've noticed that since I've started writing this yesterday, or yesterday, and the betting has changed considerably since then. When I started writing, Jungle Boogie was the complete outsider of the four.
Yeah.
Jungle Boogie is now second favourite at 3-1,
right.
which is promising to me. Oldest in the field here at the age of 10, that instantly set alarm bells ringing and concerned me to start with. Over from Ireland for Henry de Bromhead with Rachel Blackmore in the saddle. Last time out, he was sixth in the Cheltenham Gold Cup. That's not bad form by any stretch of the imagination. He weakened after a bad mistake over 3.25 miles. He arrives here with very low mileage. He's only had 6 career starts for a 10-year-old. So he's obviously fragile as well. He won over this trip at Fairyhouse in January 2022. If he's fit to do himself justice on his first run of the season, you'd like to think he would be if he's travelling over for this. I had hoped to say worth it because he's the outside of the field. He's not. He's now second favourite. But I think he's got an excellent chance. And ignore the fact he's 10. He's only had 6 runs. There's no mileage on the clock. So I think he's got an excellent chance. Which one of these would have finished 6th in a Gold Cup other than him?
Yeah.
Nothing that I can see, in all honesty. So on Jungle Boogie, for me, 3-1 disappointing, but a winner's a winner if he wins.
If he wins.
That's a hell of a sentence. A winner if he wins. Right. Then I gave Ron a handicap.
Where are we next?
Yeah, go on.
The 205.
Yeah, 205 just for you.
Yeah, we've only got 9 going for this, so this won't take long either. Horses aged 6, 7 and 8 win this. They've done so for the last 10 years. So my first shortlist comprises Famous Bridge, East Street, Regal Blue and Egbert. Now, weight ranges suggest we've got to drop the favourite, Famous Bridge. He won this last year carrying 11 stone 9, but tomorrow he's lumbered with 12 stone, and only one horse has tried to carry that weight in this race in the last 10 years, and it never managed to even hit the frame. So I'm down to East Street, Regal Blue and Egbert. The market, it generally gets this right, and in the last 10 years, we have seen 4 winners retain a double figure price, but 5 of the last 7 years, the winner has come home 8-1 or shorter. And if I apply that to the trio I've got left, our winner is East Street. James Owen, he's employed a really decent £7 claimer in Callum Pritchard to ride tomorrow. And he was also on board this horse when it won here December the 4th, and it was completing a hat-trick. You get a sense that that was a trial run for tomorrow. Around 9-2 as our type. No point going each way because it's only 1/5 of the odds. So let's see if this works. I'm going in straight win. East Street.
Interesting. I've profiled it from the stats looking back at the last 15 years, which is actually 12 runnings. No winners, half of this doesn't actually count, but we'll go through it anyway. No winners price bigger than 14-1 at the off, though obviously we have to use early prices. All those who completed on their last start came home in the first 8. None who unseated won. All raced 6-8. 11 were rated 1-2-1 or above, and every one of them had raced in the last 60 days. Now, applying those rules, I thought that would take 1 out, wouldn't it, or something like that. It's actually taken 7 of them out, and you'll be delighted to know it leaves Famous Bridge and Easy Street. Now, as you say, Famous Bridge won this last year off just 2. It was rated just £2 low. He might have been carrying more than that, but he's actually officially rated only £2 low. So he's only £2 higher here, which I don't think's mentioning almost. Looks like he's been primed for a repeat after his second at Cheltenham in October. I can see Easy Street going well, but he needs a career best. He's won his last 3, but one of those was over hurdles, and he needs a career best off his new mark, and I think that may possibly prove beyond him. But we shall see. We have to mention Frenchie du Large, if only because Venetia Williams trains it.
The Saturday Queen,
Yeah, exactly. She's doing well in all the big races. Soft ground, I'm sure she'd like heavy ground for nearly all of her horses, though she hates that being said, so I'll take that back. That's got a chance as well. I'm quite happy with Famous Bridge, but everyone knows I'm not a massive one for handicaps normally. You'll find out different later. Famous Bridge for me. 2 races to go. 2:25. Now that's the best race of the day. Whether it's the most competitive or the one Ron likes the most is a different matter. But this is probably the best race of the day. What do you reckon, Ron?
Oh, that's a cracker, No point me trying to find age grouping stats here, because what tends to happen is we get specialists at this trip running up sequences or coming back a couple of years later to win it again, to regain the title. Likewise, weight ranges, they don't help because it's a graded race. So it's only the markets that can be of any real help to us here. The winner's been front three on the tissue in 8 of the last 10 runnings, but we found just one winning favourite in the last 7 years. And that means that Strong Leader, a horse that did us a proper good turn at Aintree in April, got a real job on. Now, I also think I found his Achilles heel as well. Ascot's a right-handed track, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? Connections have only ever let him go that way once, and he only managed to place. If you look at his stats going left-handed, he's 6 from 12 with an additional 2 placed efforts. I'm also thinking that the ground's going to be soft tomorrow.
Yeah.
They're going to get at least 4 millimetres of rain, and it couldn't be good to soft. Well, I'd say he won't like that. He won on it last time out. I've got to think his best form comes on quicker ground. His 5 wins on good ground, 5 runs on good ground have produced 3 wins and 2 placed efforts.
Yep.
I'm concentrating on the Wall Park and last year's winner, Crambo. Crambo, by comparison to Strong Leader's right-hand form, he's 5 from 5 going right-handed. He's never seen the backside of another horse in front of him at the finishing line when he's going that way round. The Wall Park absolutely scooted up in a really good Cheltenham handicap in October, and he can go either way. 10 runs right-handed yields 4 wins, 2 placed efforts. I'm going to Dutch the pair to beat Strong Leader, but Crambo at 71, I've got to have a 20-80 on him. In addition to his 5 from 5 going right-handed, he's 2 from 2 at Ascot, and his form figures in December read first, pulled up, first. That has to be my podcast pick. Crambo, 2080.
Now, I don't blame you at all. Crambo was sorely tempting for me. I know Fergal reckons he's jumping out of his skin at the moment, and he's ready to come back to the track and put things right. Correct me if I'm wrong, didn't he win this last year?
He did.
Yeah, he won it last year. Just double checking.
He did.
A titanic battle towards the line. I think he's going to go well, but even Fergal's very, very worried about Strong Leader and sees him as the one he has to beat. Now, I really wasn't comfortable with this race at all. A good race to watch, don't get me wrong. But doesn't make it a good race to get involved in. Strong Leader, 5 wins from 11 starts over hurdles, impressive return at Newbury, but I suspect he was fit enough. He went off odds on that day. 9 to 4's plenty skinny, but he's now down to 2s, but he's clearly the one they will have to beat. He seems to be improving rapidly at the age of 7, might have more to offer with that run under his belt. And I think that can give him the edge over Crambo. As you say, the Wall Park's a bit of an unknown quantity. He's a rapidly Irish stayer, owned by the man JP McManus. And if he's good enough to come here, then he probably is. And we all know what the Irish do when they come over here. And again, they look at the place. That's Wall Park, Gordon Elliott. Burners changed shoot first. Henry de Bromhead, Hidden Valley Lake. I think that's William Durkin, Eagle Fang, the rank outsider. So they're coming to try and take our money, basically. And it's a proper test ahead of the Stayers Hurdle for March, which I know that's at Cheltenham, and it's a different track, etc., etc. But this is a proper test of the staying hurdlers as to where we really sit. And if Strong Leader gets beaten, I shall be bitterly disappointed. Not because I'll be on Strong Leader, but because I suspect it'll be an Irish one that beats him. If that's the case, and that puts us back on the back foot once again. Strong Leader for me, but not with that much confidence, considering he's 2-1 favourite. But still.
I'll be all over him at Aintree again in April next year.
We might have to wait for that to get our money. We might have to wait for that to get my money back. And just to end with, I chucked an all-weather handicap in. You did.
You did.
Just to wind him up.
I had a bit of a ho when I saw this. It's an all-weather race.
Yep.
Of an evening.
Yep.
There's only been 2 previous runnings. It's usually won by a 3-year-old. And one has just been taken out, leaving 8 runners. I'm going to put up Triumph of Peace, because there's no way I can profile it. I'm putting up this horse, Triumph of Peace, because he's trained by the only trainer with a runner tomorrow that's won the race previously.
Yep.
And that's William Haggis. Now, he won this race last year with a horse wearing first-time headgear. That was a tongue tie. And this one tomorrow wears a hood first time. Might be something. Might be absolutely nothing, but it's all I've got. So let's pop him up for podcast purposes only. Now you want to try saying that instead of Peter Piper picked a peckle, pickle pepper.
Yeah, that's easy to do. Yeah, I thought, what kind of a race have I done? What have I done to Ron by chucking this? I actually quite like this race now when I look at it. I think the all-weather's not getting a grip on me. Yeah. There's so much all-weather now, and there's some rubbish out there. We all know that, as there is over jumps there. But there's some half-decent racing. I quite like Take a Pull here. Yeah, what are we looking at? What have I got? 7 furlong, Phillies handicap, 2 course and distance winners in Enola Gray and Powdering. So the last named won it off a rating of 55, and she races off £18 higher here. So I wouldn't say she's got much chance. As you say, 2 runnings have seen this go to Roger Varian and William Haggis, 2 powerful Newmarket yards. I'm hoping it's Lambourne's turn with Archie Watson's Take a Pull. She last ran in a listed race at Bro Park in Sweden over a mile, when she travelled really, really well before weakening very late on, losing 2 places close home and finishing 4th. She drops back a furlong now, which gives her more chance of lasting home. She runs off a mark of 89 for her handicap debut, drops out of listed class into this, a class 3 handicap. I've written that she has an excellent each way chance. I have absolutely no prices for this whatsoever. Not even a tissue to try and second guess at.
No, I was looking. Yeah.
So I'm going to say Take a Pull each way. If she's shorter than 5-1, then Take a Pull to win would be the way I'd have to play it personally. But I think she's got an outstanding chance. Luke Morris riding for Archie Watson. That's what more can I say? We finished before Christmas, don't we? Basically, with Take a Pull as my tip in that one, and of course we've still got a couple of things to do yet before we finish. But Take a Pull for me in the 5:45 at Wolverhampton. And now Ron would normally press his button, but his button's probably not working. So over to the OMS.
Yeah, we're going to do the OMS. We've had some stonkers. I'm saving the best to the last. Bobby's Beauty, 10-1, into 8-1, into 6-1 in the newsletters, won at 13-2.
Nice.
Now, this was an absolute... I saw this coming from a mile off. Springs a Girl. It won at 80-1 not so long ago. Sprang a real big surprise. I think it was in a bumper. And then on hurdling debut, unseated rider. So they'd given up on it. Opened up 33-1. Battered into 12-1 more or less straight away. Into 9-1 in the update newsletter. Absolutely hosed up at 4-1. Wearing the flame. The last one was last Saturday at Doncaster in the big handicap. Now, again, this one, Charlie Uberales. I'd spotted it up. It was 25-1 into 12-1. I made a point of mentioning it in scribblings when I was doing the newsletter. It was punted again on track. It went off 8-1. And you could call this horse the winner a mile out. And it won at 8-1. Some people really do know how to land a plot, don't they?
Yeah, I wish it was me, I suppose, is the answer to that. You only find out by following the OMS. It'd be nice to have been the one who got on at the biggest price, but you can't have everything in life. Yeah, what can you say? I mean, it appears to be the only way you can make your racing pay. When you've got to pay your training fees and as you mentioned, the prize money from Tony Carroll earlier, if you've got to pay a training fee out of that and try and get your money back, then you've got to land
you've got to put a flanker.
As long as the horse isn't, and I'm sure they're not, I might add before anyone gets anything.
No,
they're not been pulled on previous races or they're drugged in any way or form. Then clever them to have done. That's a trainer's job, is to try and get the best out of the horse.
The way you do it is if you've got a 6 furlong sprinter, you run it at a mile 3 or 4 times, and it runs on its merits, but it doesn't stay a mile. So the handicapper looks at it and says, "Oh, knock £2 off, knock £3 off, knock £5 off." You get it down to a winning mark, trainer puts it in a 6 furlong sprint, in it goes. Same again, back up to a mile, bring its handicap mark down, blah, 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 blah. And that's how handicapping works. Simple as that.
Yeah. And the truth behind that one is that if we've said before, if you had the time to go through every horse in every race in depth, which quite frankly none of us do, then you would have spotted that. You'd spot its breeding and go, hang on, it's weakened over a mile, it's bred by, I don't know, some top sprinter, whatever. Drops back to 6, you might consider having a look at it. So that's not cheating, that's playing the game. That is handicapping. Yeah. And also the trainers are quite capable of looking at how big a horse is to how much actual physical weight it can or can't carry. So they'll place it, but they know it needs to carry 9 stone or less for want of an argument, physically. So they enter it into a race where it's down near the bottom of the weights, even if it's a slightly better race, and then back it because they know it can carry the weight. Whereas before it's been carrying 10 stone something in weaker races and not managing to get home. There's always things you can look at. As long as it's straight, I don't have a problem. I have a problem with myself because sometimes I look at it and go, why didn't I spot that?
Why didn't I spot that? Yeah, exactly.
I should have seen that. Not that they've done anything untoward, I might add. And also, as to say, I think it might have been far that, but I'm open to correction. But one of the old time greats, way before my time, and again, I might have this the other way around. They used to ride it from off the pace, and it couldn't win a race. And then someone let's ride it from the front, and then it ran up a sequence of 16 undefeated. So again, you can change riding tactics to certain horses. Putting a girl jockey on, you know, say girl these days, putting a female jockey on, certain horses prefer that. That's just a fact of life. Talk to any jockey, they'll tell you that. Quite often, I would imagine, I'm making this up, if there's a stable girl at home, they might prefer a female jockey as well. I don't know.
Well, it's well known horses. There are certain jockeys, riding styles. It can be female, male, anything you like, and if they know how to sit on the horse the way the horse likes being sat on, the horse will perform for them. Yeah, exactly,
and that's the trainer's job is to try and do the best by the horse. You know, whether that's changing track, as you just said, left-handed and right-handed, for instance. Uphill or flat track, 7 furlongs or a mile, hurdles or chases. There's so many connotations to add up to get to the perfect scenario, and even then you can't guarantee it because it may well be someone else who's trying exactly the same tactic as you are, who's better off at the weights. But it's nothing untoward, and long may that continue. It's a clever old game, and it's good fun trying to work out the winners.
Well, if they stop doing it, that'd be me snookered working on handicaps.
Yeah, exactly. We got to work on these things, and we got to take a bloody nose now and again. Sometimes it doesn't go and that's how it is. And as we said earlier, the 500 club, etc. We don't want betting to be the be all and end all. If we can find you some winners, we will. And I hope, from the terminology and wording we've used, that you can see that we didn't just stick a biro or a pin in a newspaper and come up with our selections. We've given it some thought and looked at this, that, and the other. And that doesn't mean we're right or we'll get it right on the day, but we put the effort in, and that's for you to stick together a 10p lucky 15 or where no one's suggesting whatsoever that anyone goes gambling nuts on anything that we suggest. But we'll give you some fun and we'll give you some winners as well. That's the target for the rest of our racing lives, I think, don't you?
Racing lives, indeed it is. Definitely.
Right. We got to do. Ouch! Bad mistake at the last Ascot. Never mind. Sorry, excuse me. Couldn't resist that. Okay, something for the weekend, sir.
Crambo 2080. Can't see it being out the 3.
Yeah, I hope you're right actually, because I like Virgo, but I'm a big fan. I'm going to go with take a pull each way. If I'm wrong on the price, I must take a pull win because I don't know what price. Take a pull each way, 5.45 Wolverhampton.
Okay. That is now in the document.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
I can't deny it anymore. That's the truth of it. Right. I think all that's left for us to do, to my horror as we grow old, is to wish you all a very happy Christmas.
It is. Yeah.
Who would have thought that?
It's just around the corner now. How fast has that crept up?
I know. It's looking up. I can't believe it's here. The weather doesn't look Christmassy either. I don't like the cold and the frost, but a bit of frost or a bit of snow does at least make it look a bit Christmassy. And at the moment, it's just miserably, if there's such a word, merry miserable, everybody. But don't know if we'll do a podcast next week. I'll talk to Ron when we come off air or in the week. It's up to him. And we will wish you all a very Merry Christmas. A Happy New Year if we don't come back. Plenty of winners on Boxing Day. Do be careful if you're looking at jockeys and things come Boxing Day, because there's so much racing going on.
They'll be double booked.
Yeah, it's going to be a tricky day with all that many meetings. But we're going to enjoy a few days off. We mentioned before we came on air, well, I don't think we've had 3 days in a row without racing that we can remember. So we're going to make the most of it and eat more sprouts. Right.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Okay. On that note, have a good one, everybody, and we'll speak to you soon. And may all your bets be winning ones.
Yeah. Merry Christmas. Don't drink too much, will you? See you soon.
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Post Racing, the site for winners.